In this example, what I'd like you to do is draw an ellipse, and then let's change its color. I want to go to the drop down right here, and this populates the default color library. Let's fill the first one with red and add a green stroke to it, and let's increase the stroke weight to say 20. You can see there's my fill color, there's my stroke color. This controls the weight or the thickness of it. All right, now you'll notice that over here in the toolbar, we also have another iteration of these colors. You'll notice that in this location, there's a little icon that looks like a corner of a rounded rectangle with arrows on it. This will swap out the fill and stroke color. See, that will swap them out for me. So if you want to toggle them and change it quickly, you can use that. And you'll also notice that on the opposite side right here, this will force the shape to go back to the default colors. This will go to the default black and white. Click on that, that defaults it. Click on this, this swaps them out back and forth between one another. Why don't you do me a favor? Draw a couple of ellipses, different colors, and just experiment with that. And then after that, I'd like you to draw a couple of each one of the primitive shapes and also change their colors. That's what I'm going to do as well. I'm going to draw one of these, draw another one, change its color, click off of it. Now you'll notice that it has yellow currently loaded. If I go to a rectangle and I draw a new rectangle, it's going to follow the loaded color. I don't want two shapes with the same color for my example. I'm going to change this to orange. And then if I go to a rounded rectangle, oh, it's going to make an orange rounded rectangle. I want that one to be green instead. I'm going to make one of each. This is a polygon. Change the color of it. And then the last one is a star. Oops. Thought I selected a star. And I'm going to make the star, I don't know, what color should I make the star? Blue. I haven't used blue yet. Okay. Everybody with me? Pretty good? We can see that in the layer that I call Jack, actually I'm going to change this, and I'm going to change the name of this layer to be more organized. Primitives. There we go, primitives. Hopefully I spelled that right. I'm a horrible speller, by the way. I'll get stuff wrong. You'll see. You can see that I have a stacking order here. This is the order in which they're arranged. Looking at the layers panel, which is the bottom-most object? Which is the bottom-most object? Looking at the layers panel. Layer 2 is the bottommost layer, but the object inside of my primitive layer. Look, the red ellipse, right? You can see that there's a red ellipse. What is the topmost object? The star. The star. Let's test that. I'm going to go here to the ellipse, select it, and I'm going to move it around, and you can see it's behind everything. It's behind everything. If I click the blue star, move it around, it's on top of everything. And all of the others fall somewhere in between. Let's say I wanted to move the red ellipse to the top of the stacking order within this layer. I want to move it to the top of the stacking order within this layer. How do you think I can do that? Any suggestions? Drag it in the layer panel, just manually move it up and down the way that I did the layers. Sounds like a good plan. Let's try it. All right, so let's select that red ellipse, and I'm going to stack it behind it so you can see it's behind some of these shapes, and I'm going to drag this on top of the, oh yeah, that worked. That really worked, all right? And let's move the blue star below all the rest. Oh yeah, that really worked. This is a very obvious and intuitive way of doing this, and I think that if you're working with a layer that has a handful of objects in it, 10 objects or so, this is a nice way to manage your content. But there's a better way, especially if you have a layer that says, let's say has 500 things inside of it. And that's a really high probability if you start illustrating something complex. I want to move the red ellipse to the bottom of the stacking order. We learned that the object menu has arrange, and I mentioned that's where you drive the stacking order. Notice that Arrange has the option that says send to back, send to back. That's going to force it to go to the bottom of the stacking order. Let's do that, send to back. Now it's at the bottom. All right, let's move the star to the top of the stacking order. Object, Arrange, bring to front. So as you can see here, the menu allows me to move it just as effectively as a drag and drop. And you can imagine if I had 500 things in this layer and I couldn't see them all at once, this would be a far more efficient way of doing that. Now, on top of that, I want to show you, we also can move the stacking order shape one at a time. And the phrase for that is bring forward or send backward. Backward is one step at a time. Let's do that. And check it out. The star is at the top of the stacking order. Let's send it backward. It moved down one step. Object, Arrange, send backward, and move down another step. Now you'll also notice that there are hotkeys for this, which is Command, right bracket, left bracket, or Shift Command, left bracket, right bracket. I don't use the hotkeys. I don't. Maybe once in a blue moon, but I've been working in Illustrator for over 20 years, and I almost never use that feature. But I will show you how I like to manage stacking order. I showed you two different ways. I'll show you the third way. And this is what I think is the most convenient way to manage it. Normally, the way that I construct things, for some reason, it's a lot more detailed than this. And I usually have a plan of how I'm moving objects above or below shapes. And I usually just use send to bring to front or send to back. Let's say I wanted the red ellipse to go back to the top. I'm going to right click on it. And then when I right click, you'll notice that there's Arrange down here, bring to front. If I wanted the blue star to go to the bottom, right click, Arrange, send to back. That's what I like to do. I don't have to go all the way up to the menu and select the submenu. I'm in the space, I'm in the canvas, and I can just do that, which I think is really quick. You might have a preferred way, or maybe you like a method right now, and maybe later you gravitate towards something else. That's totally fine. I'm just giving you different ways to accomplish the same thing. You'll notice that all of these shapes live in the primitive layer. What if I wanted to move this yellow ellipse into the ball layer? How do I do that? How do I move it into the ball layer? One way could be to just select it and drag it, and that'll move it. And that seems to work just fine. I'm trying to undo. However, there's a better way of doing this, right? And this is a little tedious at first, but it's one of those features that will save you a lot of time in the long run. So I think it's really important that you get this right now. You'll notice that when I don't have anything selected, you don't see those little squares that appear to the right of the layers. But if I select this yellow ellipse, a little blue square appears there, right? I select this, a little blue square appears there. If I select both of them, I still have one little blue square. Now, if I open up the layer and I see what's inside of it, anything that's selected, a little blue square is activated next to it. These little blue squares, I can actually use them to drag and drop information from one layer to the next. So I don't have to go into the layer, see the object. I can just grab it from here if I understand what I'm doing within my file. So I'm going to select the yellow ellipse, and I'm going to grab this little blue square and drag and drop it into ball. And the yellow ellipse now lives in the ball layer. I believe that's the most efficient way, and efficient and concise, meaning that I know that I accomplished it. Does that make sense? Now, what's a visual indicator that the yellow ellipse now lives in the ball layer? What is a visual indicator?
Pink box.
The pink box around it, and the pink box next to the name. Because the ball layer is this magenta-like color, the bounding box has changed and the square has changed. Those are all visual clues that I'm moving my information correctly. Let's do this again. I'm going to grab this green shape and I'm going to move this to layer 3. Oh, layer 2. Let's do layer 2. Layer 2. You can see the red bounding box. I'm going to grab this magenta polygon and I'm going to drag this to layer 3. You'll notice that I'm moving the information just by selecting those little squares on the outside of it. Now, it might feel a little clumsy at first, but the sooner you try to work with that and feel comfortable with it, the better off you're going to be.